Hi friends, thanks for joining me today. Today we are going to talk about the history of tea. So let's get started. Tea has a very long history. Humans have been drinking tea for many thousands of years. I am not going to get through every single moment in the history of tea in one shot. I am hoping that I'll hit the big points as we go through, but this will be a multi-part series of videos just because there is so much to get through. Before I start, I have some notes. The first is that this is not an exhaustive history of tea. I researched and put together this information to present to my Facebook group. So if you happen to be on my Facebook group, you've already seen the vast majority of this. Additionally, these videos are probably going to be pretty boring to watch. Not a lot is going to be happening on your screen. I'm basically just reading my research paper to you. That being said, this will kind of work like a podcast, so feel free to plug in some earbuds and get the vacuuming done or fold some laundry or what have you. I'm hoping at least that we will learn something and that it might be a little fun. So I have my tea in my cup today is Raspberry Earl Grey by Magic Hour. It's a very, very lovely tea. Another note is I am rubbish at correctly pronouncing Chinese words and names. I apologize in advance for that. I'm going to do my best, but I know I'm really bad at it. So please forgive me for not pronouncing proper names and places correctly. I've never heard it, so I don't know. Maybe someday I will learn, but we'll do our best here. Let's just dive right in. The story of tea begins in China. K. Jelinek, editor of the Illustrated Encyclopedia of Prehistoric Man from 1978, suggested that the first tea was consumed in the early Paleolithic period, which is about 500,000 years ago. Archaeological evidence from what is now China in that time period indicates that leaves from Camellia sinensis were placed in boiling water by Homo erectus. The true origin of tea is something that we are never going to know. It is a matter of mythology at this point in time. Emperor Xinong, a mythological deity, was boiling water when a leaf drifted into his pot. He was intrigued by the color of the water and so drank it. Xinong is called the divine farmer or agricultural god. He is sometimes called Wu Guxin, which means fire grains, and is one of the three sovereigns, deified kings in Chinese mythology. It is said he invented the hoe, plow, and axe, and developed digging wells and acupuncture. He taught agriculture and herbal medicine to the Chinese people. He is accredited with writing the Herbal Classic, which is a collection of plants, recipes, and remedies. It should be noted that Xinong is legend and mythology, the Chinese equivalent of deities such as Apollo and Hermes, and no evidence of an actual person or emperor of that name and those accomplishments actually exist. Tea is mentioned extensively in the Herbal Classic. It was respected as a medicinal remedy, claiming it would alleviate problems caused by tumors, bladder issues, and sores and abscesses about the hand. It was considered more than a cure, it was also a strong preventative. From the Herbal Classic, quote, habitual drinking can ease the mind and benefit the qi, increase stamina, and keep one fresh and young. Tea is better than wine, for it leadeth not to intoxication, neither does it cause a man to say foolish things and repent thereof in his sober moments. It is better than water, for it does not carry disease, neither does it act like poison, as water does when it contains foul and rotten matter. End quote. The latter of the statement is undoubtedly true because the water for tea was always boiled, ridding it of many disease-bearing organisms. We know an infusion of some kind of leaf was used as early as the Zhong dynasty, which was 1046 to 256 BCE, and that Camellia sinensis was eaten as a vegetable, used in ritual offerings and used in medicine during the Han dynasty, which was 206 BCE to 220 CE. During the Shu dynasty, which is 581 to 618, tea was brewed in boiling water and drunk as a medicine. They did not process the leaves before brewing, and the drink produced was bitter and medicinal in flavor. Apothecaries started adding rice, salt, spices, ginger, orange peel, and others to improve the flavor. Processing tea leaves before brewing improved the flavor. This began during the early Tang dynasty, which was 618 to 907, and tea subsequently became available to all social classes and was drunk for pleasure. The serving of tea became an art form during this time, and the emperor and the wealthy classes started employing tea masters to properly brew and serve their tea. The most well-known tea master of the age was Lu Yu, who lived from 729 to 804. He wrote a book called The Tea Classic. This book on tea specified when to harvest, advising on weather, season, and the age of the leaves. Lu Yu explained, quote, "The best quality leaves must have creases like the leathern boot of Tartar horsemen, curl like the dewlap of a mighty bullock, unfold like a mist rising out of a ravine, gleam like a lake touched by a zephyr, and be wet and soft like fine earth newly swept by rain." End quote. In the Tea Classic, Lu Yu describes how to process the leaves by drying and rolling. During this period, tea leaves were compressed into cakes and baked. Brick tea was stored in paper bags to preserve its flavor. A part of the brick was broken off, ground into powder in a stone mortar, and hot water poured over it. These tea bricks were easy to store and easy to pack and bring on long journeys, and early Chinese traders always brought their tea with them. Tea was very popular in Buddhist monasteries during this time and was used to keep the monks awake during long hours of meditation. Many monasteries had large tea gardens to grow their tea. A student of Lu Yu, Lu Teng, was a poet who wrote often on tea. One of his most famous lines is, quote, "I am in no way interested in immortality, but only in the taste of tea." End quote. At the start of the Tang dynasty, we began seeing tribute tea. The emperors demanded the very best of the tea harvest in lieu of taxes. This is one of the darker parts of tea history, and there were a lot of dark parts of tea history, as the demands were often difficult to meet and might have included when to harvest, who must harvest, and how much tea had to be sent. Villages with tea gardens spent so much time gathering the tribute exactly as the emperor of the age instructed. Some records show that as many as 3 million people were practically indentured to the production of tribute tea. Tribute tea continued for more than 1,000 years until the last Chinese dynasty, the Qin dynasty, which ended in 1912 with the Qinghai Revolution. During the Song dynasty, which was 960 to 1279, whipping the powdered tea from a tea brick became popular. This produced a better flavor and texture to the drink. Li Qilai, a Song poet, said that the 3 most deplorable things in the world were, quote, "the spoiling of fine youth through false education, the degradation of fine paintings through vulgar administration, and the utter waste of fine tea through incompetent manipulation." End quote. Emperor Hui Song, 1082 to 1135, wrote a book called Ta Quan Cha Lun, or A General View of Tea, in 1107. This book became the essential guide for tea during his lifetime. In this book was the first mention of a bamboo whisk used for whisking tea. He wrote that different teas, quote, "vary as much in appearance as do the faces of men," end quote. At the end of the Song dynasty, China was under Mongol rule, and whipping tea disappeared in China during this time. I think that's a good place to stop for now. I have more. I have pages and pages more. I hope you will join me as we continue to explore some of the history of tea. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm grateful for you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.